Hello, everyone, and welcome to How to Happy Holistically. Our weekly class is about the prankster this week. I have left this message, which is written backwards because it mirrors. I missed that. I need to take care of 3 things very quickly, but I wanted to start the meeting, so I didn't leave you in limbo. So I am going to prop this message up right here on camera and then come back because I love you guys and I can't wait to meet with you, and I don't want to leave you guys waiting in limbo indefinitely. So have a lovely message that hopefully you can decipher and it won't fall over while I'm doing 3 things. Hi, Shannon. I have it set up so I can step away for a minute. How do I set you up to let people into the room so I can put on my, just regroup for a second? Can you hear me? Say something, Shannon. Shannon. There she is. Hi, handsome. I'm popping out for 1 second. Shannon, can you hear me?
Tell him to a very detailed.
I hate the waiting room. Share screen, meeting topic, mute upon entry, no. Okay, Shannon, can you hear my voice, honey? Shannon, can you hear me? Nope. Okay, well, I'm gonna leave this message here and I'm gonna be right back. I love you. Thank you.
Love you, Donna. You're amazing.
And caffeine is welcome anytime. Yeah, actually, Babu. Are you just gonna make me a coffee? I love you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Make sure to give Mom some. Hello. Hello, I'm here. Is it just the two of us so far?
Nope, we got several.
Ooh, did they join us?
Got Jacob and Brianna.
Ooh, I'm so excited. Hello, lovelies. Can we see you? Are you here? Are you on? Do you have
I
video?
can see them, but I don't know if you can. I can.
Hi,
And there's
baby.
Serena.
I need to show you something.
The best. Oh, I have people. I'm so excited. Hello, humans.
Oh.
I encourage babies. I encourage real life. I encourage everyone to play together.
Okay, now I'm here.
There.
All right, I'm about to mute.
That's cool. And thank you for your patience while I got myself some food because, one, I did not have makeup on and I looked really washed out when I was in a study session a minute ago.
I'm still eating.
Right. I'm just now eating for the first time all day and it's not even my dinner. I didn't get up until, I didn't wake up till almost 1. I didn't get out of bed till after 2. It's been an exciting day. And now you get to see me
It
lay
sounds
here
like
and
it.
eat yogurt.
Beth, your life is always exciting.
My dad messaged me out of the blue and got mad at me for pointing out that my family hadn't been supportive to me over the last few years while all of the people I loved and cared about like died or I got divorced and things went horribly sideways. And out of everyone in my family, I've
I saw
had
that post.
out of everyone in my life, I've had 2 people calling and checking in on me. And one of the 2 messaged me really pissed off that I had posted this and how dare I treat him like that. When the last time I went to visit him, he and his wife ganged up on my son and me.
Ooh, that ain't good.
I never apologized once. So,
I just honestly,
huh?
I just honestly thought you were busy most of the time, so I was like, give her space, dude.
Right, but here's the thing, right, Jacob? You have been a friend of mine on and off for years, right? You drop me an occasional message once in a while, make sure I was okay, right? Out of my
Yep.
entire family in like 6 states, some of them in-laws, some of them step-family, some of them born family. Out of all of them, I had 2 people in my entire relative stash that checked in on me regularly at all. And a 3rd one who commented on all of my Facebook posts and just was present in my life. I had a 4th relative call me once to check my address. And then I had a handful of them that I had to invite to funerals for the year before my official divorce. So out of everyone in my world, hello, Sean Hodel. We're bullshitting for a minute. Sorry.
That's
Welcome. But out of everyone in my life, I only had like 2 or 3 of the people who were supposed to be relatives even checking in. And when my dad found out about this, he got very, very upset and messaged me today. Because how dare I make it sound like he's not supportive? And I'm like, you know, if you and your wife had ever apologized for ganging up on me and my kids the last time we visited, you know, maybe we'd be planning another visit. But in the meantime.
Yeah, that's sucky. turkey. I'm sorry
If it
about
looks
that.
like a duck and it quacks like a duck.
I know, but
It's
I
probably a
want my
chicken. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Thank you, Jacob. And actually, your comment and me talking about my dad, like, the prankster takes situations like this and makes it feel better. He makes it feel okay.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Like, your joke, right when I'm talking about how my dad basically emotionally punched me in the gut, made me laugh instead of cry. Yay! And
Aw.
it said, my dad was also the one who taught me this trick because he's hilarious. He raised me on Robin Williams. He raised me on laughter. He is
Yeah.
so many ways my embodiment of the prankster. So I suppose it's appropriate yet again that I had something come up in my life that helps provide the storyline to our message today. These keep ending up being Dear Diary entries, and I feel like I should apologize. So
Unfortunately, real life is the best teacher.
life is the best teacher. So every week when I have my How to Happy class, I'm ultimately going through the curriculum before I bring it to you guys. The good news is I've spent the last week laughing my ass off.
She hits the stairs before she hits us.
And then I fall down. And I
Ow.
bring all of my lessons. So, first things first, I love having classes with people in them where it's conversation. So I would love to invite you all to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how the prankster has played a part in your life. So I have an idea of how to work with you guys in our classroom this week.
The pranksters?
The concept of the prankster. See, okay,
Okay.
let me use a few more words to introduce this in case there's any question. The divine has a handful of very cool aspects that have shown up throughout all of history. And please know that human history has, at this point, been dated back to over 100,000 years ago in South Africa. So when I'm referring to human history, I'm not referring to the last 100 years. I'm not referring to the last 2,000 years. I'm referring to the last 100,000 years and the stories that have resulted in oral cultures and whatnot because of this. Many of us have been exposed to one aspect of the divine or another through this, but we often don't realize that we are, how do I say this right? That we are seeing aspects of the divine. We often miss it for one reason or another. We've been told that there's, after all, one God and he only plays games a certain way, and he only plays games if he can win, if you're reading the Bible.
Anyway.
If you're reading other practices, though, all of a sudden, the goddess is the goddess of the hearth and inspiration and childbirth and supporting your family and prosperity. And holy crap, you are hearing all of that. Those are just aspects of one goddess, and her name is Brigid. If you're looking at specific definitive qualities of the divine, you can find the mother goddess, you can find the death goddess, you can find the fertility goddess, and for some reason birth and fertility are often not the same. Brigid hosts birth and creativity, but she's not necessarily, at least correct me if I'm wrong, I've never heard of her being used for fertility rites. Is anybody else here? Like, I'm actually checking myself. Sean, Shannon, Brianna, do any?
No.
No.
Nuh-uh.
I don't think.
I think we skipped the introduce our part, so to just kind of jump straight into the conversation because I kind of weep.
No, it's okay, Jacob. Give me a second. I'm explaining something. So see, the different aspects of the divine include mother, earth, fertility when it comes to goddesses, right? When it comes to gods, it tends to be more, how do I say this right? It falls more along the lines of different career paths. It's like their long-term job description. So you'll have Father Time, whose job is to oversee time. You'll have the hunter, whose job is to work with the animals and to hunt them. You'll have the harvest god, whose job is both to embody the harvest and also to tend the harvest. You'll have the hunter god might also be renowned for flirting with women because that's part of the hunt after all. And then additionally to all of that, we find ourselves talking about the prankster god. So when I'm talking about the prankster god and asking for everyone's experience with this, it's anything from what makes you laugh in life, because that's actually his bailiwick. Comedy is important. And that's one of the things I want to discuss today. Comedy is important in our lives. It helps make it more bearable. It helps make us more comfortable. And it helps make our lessons suck a lot less. Okay? So when we are talking together among ourselves today about the prankster, I want to have an idea of, have you guys worked with aspects of the divine? Oh yeah, there's the sun god and the life-giving god. Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate that. So when it comes to you guys introducing yourselves, boys, girls, and everybody, I would love to hear what your interactions have been as far as the prankster god is concerned, if you have any, or just what makes you laugh. Sounds good? So, Shannon, you've been with me for every class. If you would be willing to unmute for a second and let us hear your background noise and tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am Shannon. I have been co-priestess within the guild for like the
Ever.
whole time.
I love you. Could not do it without you. I love you so much.
I've been volunteered into service by Hell and Psyche. So that's been exciting. I haven't really, aside from Hell being the daughter of Loki, I haven't really dealt with the prankster god too closely, except I know that I've learned some adaptability, quick adaptability in just weird ass situations in regards to that.
I get the feeling I may have had a role in some of those situations, but also not all of them. Okay. It sounds almost like something on this is breathing, or we're playing Minecraft and there's creepers approaching. So unless there's creepers approaching. Oh, the sound changed. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
that's my headphones. I guess my mic is really sensitive. Sorry.
It's okay. And really, if it was a creeper sneaking up on us, I'd just ask someone to turn around with their sword and take it out for a minute. But, I think I'm funny. So, Jacob, you're it. Tell us about you.
Okay. I'm Jacob. Hi. 34 years old, and my dealings with what was it? The prankster god?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the most prankster we got around here right now is Biddy, and she can be a little shit sometimes.
Oh, yes, your
Yeah.
niece.
She sometimes pushes it quite far. So anyway,
Mhm.
over the many years I've been alive, which is probably way more than I could possibly imagine. Let's see here. I haven't run into very many. There one did pop up while I was working in Fresh Time, and me and you, Beth, did a bone reading on that.
Mm-hmm.
Mandy, and Mandy's all sorts of cool, all sorts of funny, you know. funny
Mhm.
poses, funny dances when she's taking pictures and stuff like that. She's over in North Dakota doing the beet harvest right now.
Mhm.
Other than that, I was up one night. I watched your last meeting thingy, and the whole allow yourself to be a funny thing has actually been a big help because it doesn't put pressure on me to be or to try and be funny.
Mhm.
And I've been getting a lot more laughs lately, and people have been relaxed a lot more, and so on and so forth. And yeah, so
Good.
yeah,
And it does make life easier, doesn't it? To just
oh
help
God,
people
yes.
around you.
Mhm.
So much easier. Who wants to go next? Brianna, Sean, pick one.
I guess I'll go next.
Ooh, goody.
My name is Sean. I'm an elder up with Three Rivers Pagans up in Fort Wayne. I'm also a member of a group called Order of Paladins. For the most
I've
part,
loved comparing notes with you on the Order of the Paladins, by the way, over the last few months. It's been so
yeah, it's funny how a lot of that is, overlapping with certain things at times. But
yeah.
with the Prankster gods, not something I've really worked much with, though I mainly work with two of the main deities I work with are warrior goddesses, and in their own sick, sadistic way can be a prankster. Or they
You are
like
not.
knocking you, where they
Yeah.
like knocking you down when you least expect it.
Yeah.
Just for their own joy and pleasure.
Well, it's entertaining watching us fall. They are ultimately trying to teach us to be better warriors, though. I mean, think about it. If you left your guard down and they have a solid place to land a blow, haven't they trained you better than that? If they're able to knock you down, shouldn't they? I don't love it myself, but
Yeah, it's not top of my favorite things. They've kind of let off for a while. But for the most part, like with humor and stuff, I try to every morning Facebook anymore is just scroll, skip all the BS. I get on YouTube and watch like videos of people reacting to music videos and things like that for more lighter entertainment.
right, you need that. We all need that. And then, Brianna, can you tell us some about you? Pretty please.
Well, I haven't actually worked with any tricksters that I know of. I do have cats, so
Oh, good. But yeah, I follow. Yeah.
yeah, I've been to a few guild events, kind of figuring things out on my own, mostly.
Yeah. Well, if you want to do it with some company, you can get onto our Facebook group and just compare notes. We have a secret group, and then we have a Facebook page. And no church would ever public its roster, would ever publicly publish, that's the word, would ever publish their roster ever. But Facebook makes it very difficult to have a group on there where people cannot see the roster. So we have a page where you can't see who all likes the page. And then we have a secret group where people can go in and anonymously interact with each other by name, and no one outside of that bubble will be able to see. So you can be nice and blunt in there and sound a little bit like a fool, and that's okay because we laugh and we play and we don't take it too seriously. Which is what led me talking about the prankster today, actually. See, in a lot of religious environments, I think, personally, that we take this shit way too seriously. Like, on the regular,
I've
constant.
seen some stiffs in my day. Anyway.
You've seen some what? Go ahead. Okay, don't.
I've
right.
seen some stiffs in my day, like the.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sticks day, yeah. And see, people will walk in and they'll be like,
my
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, my connection's kind of funky. Like I walked into churches and they've been doing their things, and this dude, like one of the dudes up on the stage or by the altar, if you whatever you want to call it, just has this like death look over his face, like he's entranced or something like that. And I suppose that's appropriate, but like, you know, somebody tries to crack a joke in there and all of a sudden, you know, everybody, he's getting scolded for no reason, like he's trying to lighten the mood here. Yeah.
Right. And see, I'm the girl who'll walk into the room and be like, hey, y'all, how's things? We finally get started. Woo! And wait, my boobs are in the wrong place. You know, this is how I do always. And thank you. That was an excuse to also adjust my boobs because they were seriously in the wrong place. But like, we all do these things in real life, and then we treat it like religion in general needs to stay inside of its happy, peaceful little box right here. It needs to stay inside the box, and then we put the box away and we cover it up and no one has to see it. And that's how the religion will help us. I don't understand how burying something in the backyard that's supposed to provide spiritual advice and keeping it there, you know, for 6 out of 7 days a week is actually going to help guide our lives. And I also don't understand how if we're all sitting around pretending that we don't act anything like we actually act, and we're like, hello, Shannon, how are you today? I'm very good too. I have children. Oh, that's part of the reason things aren't fitting right. I had stuff in my cleavage again.
You had boob money.
Doesn't have boob money. Like, honestly, they're the only pockets we're actually given freely by the fashion industry. We might as well use them.
Pretty much.
Well, on Deadpool, you can find the prison pocket, which is something, yeah.
Oh yeah, similar, just different, right? Oh my god, I get caffeine. I'm so excited. Thank you, Babu.
It's chai. It's not the iced tea.
It's okay.
It's got vanilla almond milk in it.
You're my favorite thing.
Love
Thank
you.
Love you. Okay.
Oh,
now that
that's so sweet.
I know he makes me gorshy. It's embarrassing, but also awesome.
I made a thing of tea with local honey, and it's the immune booster one, and it's so good. But it's even better with the throat comfort one.
Ooh, that sounds like a good combo. And the throat comfort ones never
yeah.
taste as good as they sound. So that's a rescue right there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but yeah, so a lot of people will sit around and they'll be like, yes, hello, I'm good. My children are good. My life is good. And then they go home and the children are like running through the house, wah! Trying to kill each other. And at work, they're like, fuck my boss in the ear. I cannot stand this. And then they're like, I just can't even life today. And they're like walking in the house and taking off their clothes and throwing them on the floor. Just fuck it all. And they don't feel, and this is important, they don't feel like they are allowed to happy in their life and be themselves. They don't feel like they're allowed to be themselves at all and be a good person. They don't feel like if they're being a good person, they can be honest with anyone. Really? Like, what's the point of living a life like that, first of all? Of course, you're not going to feel happy if you're denying anything that actually makes you comfortable and restricting yourself to a perfect posture and perfect coffee and perfect conversation. And we're never talking about our ex-husbands, our ugly children, or our bad days. No, it's all coffee and perfect persona. Like, in all honesty, that is not what you're gonna
not even close.
Right. I really want to just sit here and be like on camera or something and start channeling my inner Kiss or something, because that's what I want. Think about it. The night, and everybody has one of these nights, when you were 12 or 13 or 14 or 15 and you went out with your friends and maybe you were barefoot, or maybe you were dressed all crazy, or maybe you were just trying to stay warm enough because it was such a cold night, but you go outside and you wander around for the first time on your own steam where no one can see you and nobody knows where you are. You know that
That's
feeling
fun.
of liberation and excitement that like floods your whole body, like all of your skin is tingling and your brain can't go to sleep even if it wanted to? That's the kind of stuff that I wish for people when they're talking about what they want, where they're going, what they need from their religion. And most people don't mix those two concepts at all. And then they
Which
walk.
is very, very sad.
Isn't it though? But I mean,
Oh
realistically,
God, yes.
they're used to thinking of sacred space as requiring stained glass in some format, not honesty.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, step out into the grass and you can feel it everywhere. I mean,
If you
go
let
step out. Yeah, if you let yourself go, right?
Mhm.
That's what you're gonna say. Yeah. But it's the I think it's like the conditioning aspect of the religion you were talking about
Well,
that says, oh, it's only okay right here.
right.
Go ahead.
It's okay. It's just not just one. It's like Christianity comes in many flavors nowadays. I mean, it's Baskin Robbins, 31 flavors at this point, at least. And then there's multiple different flavors of Islam that are also, again, very deliberately restrictive. And some aspects of Judaism are very liberal and forgiving and involve your full personality, but many of them don't. So when you're looking at how people interact, and please don't forget, do we qualify Amish and Mennonite as just being Christian, or are they a different sect technically, kind of, sort of, maybe, question mark. So a lot of times when we're thinking about religion, what we're thinking about here in this kind of an environment is more along the lines of like tribalism and kindness, yes, and group activity, sure, but it's more of the tribal practices of the history of the world than the quote organized religions where everybody's told what to do. And as soon as somebody starts walking around and barking out orders and telling everybody what to do, it just
People in charge needing to be in control of everybody.
right, as opposed to a group that's based on Rage Against the Machine. You know, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me, is almost like a rule in pagan groups. And I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. Like, I enjoy
I hate that neither.
When we gather, we can talk about, we can use our curse words. And forgive me if I'm cursing extra. Talking about the prankster, it always seems like the F-bomb belongs in that combo. It's,
Fuck's a good one.
let's not hit too many. I don't want to scare off the youngins. It's probably good that we're meeting after bedtime.
My youngins heard it plenty, so no worries.
And not necessarily
all I have is this. All I have is this really potato-looking dog over here. I mean, if anybody can see this behind me.
Oh no, let me see, doggo. Oh, hey Tater. How are you, Tater? I'm just gonna call you Tater. I don't believe your name is, but you're very cute.
Hi. She waves. Yeah, she wants attention. Hi.
Hey, baby.
Oh yeah, we gave her a bath too. Tons of fleas came off. They're everywhere right now. Anyway, go for it.
Oh, babies. So, it is the season, and it's a really bad year for it. I actually have not had cats outside at all, and all three of our cats need to be retreated, or our two cats need to be retreated now because the fleas somehow got into the house and reinfested the cats in a new house where fleas have never been.
They stopped spraying for them years back, apparently. So I mean, they're getting really bad year after year.
Well, it's probably good that they're not just spraying outside wholesale, but seriously. Okay,
Yeah, the cold will sweep in and kill them all. Go for it, Beth.
yeah. So over the last few classes, I have been, and not all of them the How to Happy class. I got to do Fort Wayne Pagan Pride Day with Sean Hodell. Thank you again, Sean, for all of your amazing help on that. I got to run a class on something. Yes, I got to run a class at Fort Wayne Pagan Pride Day, and for some reason I'm blanking on it right now. It's PPE, personal protective energies, so that we could actually somehow weather through the rest of the year. And I explained how to do stealth magic to help help shore ourselves up so we don't start collapsing as the rest of the year unfolds, because the first half was a lot rough. Or first 2/3. By the way, charging water on your altar in a water bottle that you can then carry around with you the next day, not a bad idea. I did it by accident at first. Works really well. Drinking sacred water all day, not a bad thing. Nope. So when I was in that class, I was laughing about how one of the things that we do to shore ourselves up and the people around us is that we laugh together. And I got to tell everybody about my pet name for my phone chargers, which was great. And I went, and Sean's laughing already. Yay, Sean, I love you. I mentioned that last week. I'm not going to retell it again. But my point in all of this is to help recharge people by cracking jokes, to help encourage people to keep paying attention and listening, because if nothing else, I'm making you laugh. I'm not putting you to sleep. And the reason this class's topic matter came up the way it did is because I was laughing with Charlie about how much in my own path, in my own practice, I follow the prankster more closely than, as closely as I follow the Divine Mother of Darkness. And considering how closely I have always followed the Divine Mother of Darkness, even before I realized, like, that's saying a lot. These are my two balancing points in my life. So we have laughter, and then we have the deep, dark soul of reality. And these are both necessary, because you can't wrap your head around the deep, dark soul of reality and still want to, like, live if you can't laugh at it. Does that all make sense?
Yep.
Man, there's going to be some pretty gruesome art that comes out of that one. If you didn't have laughter in there.
Yeah, and see, when it comes to the prankster, we are talking about some hard stuff every day, every single day, as we are getting through COVID, as we're getting through this political crisis. I think I can safely just call it a political crisis and move on. Does that make sense? Does that work? I think.
Oh yeah, most definitely. There's a huge shit show going on up there.
Yeah, there is. And guess what? It's just got to be okay somehow. So when it came out, what had happened with, so I don't even want to say what happened with blank, because at this point there's so many things. I keep just laughingly posting, okay, who had this on your 2020 bingo card? Who had that?
Oh yeah, we all knew that was coming.
Yeah, I mean, some of it, sure, but a lot of it's been really like blindsiding. It's just out of nowhere, we've gotten news and updates. And I will tell you all now that the only reason why I am still sane enough to talk with you guys is because I've been cracking jokes. When I moved right next to the worst, I'm going to repeat this, the worst section of highway in Indianapolis. And if you guys live in this area, you know what I'm talking about. It's Sam Jones Expressway. It is 3 miles long. You get on the left side, you get off on the right side. Doesn't matter which side you're starting on. Somehow it always tends to be true. And you have to zip-zag Zuda between all of the other cars on a road that actually does exist. It goes from the airport into town. It is dangerous, and people drive like they are drunk on it constantly. So
Ugh.
guess what this girl did? Guess. I renamed the road to be Sam Adams Drunk Way because everybody drives like they're drunk for 3 miles. And if
Dude,
I
it's
have to
cold.
drive on it regularly, I might as well be able to laugh about it. And suddenly, once we started calling it Sam Adams Drunk Way, everyone who has to come to our house is like, oh, this is where everybody drives like crazy bitches. Cool.
Wait, is that the road that the semi thing happened on or whatever?
No, that was the car accident actually happened halfway down 65.
In
which
Oh,
means-
Tallahassee, everyone drives that way everywhere. It's terrible.
In
Oh
where?
no.
Tallahassee, Florida,
Oh my God, you're right. Yes, I hate it.
everywhere. Like they will even rush in front of emergency vehicles just so they don't have to wait. It's
I-
terrible.
I've never been down to Florida and I don't own a car, so thank God.
Yeah, if you go to Florida, just don't drive. Leave it to
No.
someone who's got like has earned their warrior badge behind the wheel somehow because no.
I'd rather go like 55 down a hill on my longboard, and that just sounds simple.
Yes, you have just stated something that makes sense on all points.
Oh,
So
thanks.
So I was going to introduce you to the concept of the prankster. See, he has many forms. I was saying in my description how he's great in comedies, he entertains us in mythology, he makes work less endless. Does that mean that the prankster is there in every single circumstance? Yes, absolutely. Of course he is. But he's not the divine. See, okay, I mentioned at the beginning of this combo that my dad and I were having issues, right? I love my dad. He can organize people like a boss. He helped raise so much money for the local hospital in Canton, Ohio when I was growing up that they actually basically funded the building of a children's wing. It took him a while. It took a couple summers working together doing major public outreach fundraisers. But he would put together, and you'll love this, he'd put together a band and a beer tent and an area outside where people could play. Then he would charge admission to this killer party that he built and bring together all of the folks in the city in the summer, and they called it Summerfest. And they did it every weekend and created this amazingly deep sense of community for people and sold beer and music and food to help build a children's wing on the hospital. Like, They put on a haunted house every fall. And by the way, pagan groups, we should start putting on haunted houses every fall. Like we should. I don't know why we aren't. We should. But
Oh God, yeah, no, that'd be fun.
right? Every fall, let's just do a pagan fundraiser. Let's start doing some shit. But then it'd be work, and I prefer my spooky season to be like vacay time. Personally, I don't know about you guys.
At one point, you wanted to do a witch museum of all of the things, various things that have happened to witches. Like,
I do. I want to turn the tables on everybody and have a pagan owned and operated haunted house that features what happened to all the witches over the ages and scare the crap out of people. What happens if they think you're a witch next? Would be great. So, my dad did all of this by making people smile and making them laugh and being willing to get the money out of their pockets so that it can go to a good cause. You guys ever heard Anansi stories? Anybody know who Anansi is? What or who Anansi is? No.
The name
Anansi.
seems familiar, but that's about it.
Well, you might have seen one of Neil Gaiman's books. It's called Anansi Boys, but most people don't really think about it. See, I learned about Anansi years ago because I'm obsessed with fairy tales and with stories. And Anansi is from Africa. Now, there's some interesting things to know about Africa. First of all, Africa is huge. So when we say something is from Africa, we're only referring to a section of a continent at any given point in time, guaranteed. So if I tell you something about African practices, please realize also that a lot of the people in Africa, this might be shocking to hear, were abducted and turned into slaves by people from other continents who had no business being there and were often sold off by their brother for being an asshole or by their friend because they owed him money. There were all kinds of reasons that they ended up in slavery. But in the meantime, all of the people from the reflect because of the mirror image from the west side of Africa ended up going east in the process of being, well, abducted. And a lot of the people on the east side of Africa had such horrible people managing them that they ran literally anywhere else in the continent. So a lot of the practices that might have been nice and neat and local and tribal, I'm not actually sure where all to attribute their practices now. If that all makes sense, I'll move on and just qualify everything I'm saying as this is from Africa, and no, I'm not sure of all of the deets, so I am skipping the things I am not sure of. That doesn't mean there's not important and good information there. So Anansi in the jungle regions of Africa was a prankster god, and a lot of the gods in that region were associated with animals. So like Anansi was a spider, and he was a spider. He had many legs and a big fat belly. But you know how spiders have little genitals? He did not like Tiger because Tiger had big genitals. And then one day when Tiger went swimming, he took off all of his fur so he could go swimming. And so Anansi went and raided his fur and found his genitals in it. And he took them out and he put them on and walked into town going, ha ha, see me? Now I'm the appropriate size. Ha ha. And they're like, no, I don't think you're orange and stripy down there or that you're supposed to be. And he's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. See how
Oh my God.
amazing I am? Did you catch that? You know. And then when Tiger, who was always pompous and very full of himself and told everyone how impressive he was, when he got out of the water, he goes to check his fur for all of his pieces, which, you know, you have to make sure all your pieces are still in your fur when you get out of the water after all. And he finds out that instead of having his normal glorious furry things, he has shriveled little raisins in there. So he very angrily storms into the village and says, who took my glorious furry genitals and replaced them with raisins? And when everyone realized what he was referring to as raisins, they turned to Anansi and began laughing at him very, very, very much. And Anansi put his head down and he left the village in shame. But see, he's also the guy who in the next village got everybody organized, and he got the dog to play the fiddle and the cat to play the flute. And I think Chicken or somebody was playing the drums, and they started this entire, and I'm poorly paraphrasing, amazing stories. Please go and look up Anansi's stories at your local library, because these stories in their original tellings should not die. They should live on for generations. And when he went into the village this time and he got together this band, he got them onto the back of a carriage and he went around telling everybody, hey, bad things happen to all of us sometimes. So how about if we all work together and start pooling our resources so none of us ever have to go hungry again? We can make sure we have a backup. And they're like, cool beans. Yeah, we can do that. That's a really good idea. And he said, and once we have the storehouse full, we can have a great big party and celebrate. And they're like, oh my God, that's freaking brilliant. Yes, let's totally do that. And Anansi says, you know what? Everybody should take turns guarding it to make sure it's safe. But in the afternoon, after working really hard to get all of this together, he went in and he took his turn in the storehouse. And he decided he was really tired. So he took a nap and just made sure the doors were locked. But when he kind of half woke up from his nap and he wasn't quite awake, he was really hungry. So he went ahead and grabbed some food and he ate. But the thing to know about Anansi is that boy could eat and eat and eat, and he'd just get bigger. So Anansi, when he's hungry after his nap, he starts eating in the storehouse. He's like, I don't have to get up yet, goes back to sleep. And when he wakes up, he eats some more. And when he wakes up, he
Oh
eats
God.
more. And so he ends up clearing out most of the storehouse all by himself, and then realizes that if they catch him and just him in the storehouse where they were all having a party and the storehouse is empty after all their hard work, they gonna be mad. You think? A little? So he gets his big heavy belly and starts trying to pull himself out of the storehouse so he can get away while the getting's good, and somehow manages to sneak out the back door. But he makes sound on the edge of the village, and they're worried that someone's trying to come take all the food. So he makes himself scarce off in the woods as they go to check the shed. And when they found out that the shed was mostly empty, they immediately called out, oh no, Anansi's idea got sidetracked. It got wrecked. I can't believe this. There's no food left in the storehouse. Someone must have broken in and taken it. And Anansi is like, yeah, that must be it, as he tries to go hide until he can digest all of the copious amounts of food. These stories tell us about what's involved in organizing people. Anansi had to be interesting. He had to be silly. He had to make people laugh in order to get people organized enough to do this amazing project. Baby. And then, I'm sorry, every time Brina pops into the screen, I'm just like, ooh. Same with puppies, though, fair warning. Puppies and cats will also get the same response. But when Anansi shows up in stories, he doesn't just demonstrate success. He also demonstrates failures. And when you really shouldn't have trusted someone, because if you know it's their nature, and we covered this before in one of the previous classes, if you know it's their nature, don't leave them where they can screw it up, yo. Like, honestly. Do not give Anansi a turn guarding the storehouse. Just because he had a really good idea doesn't mean he'll be able to restrain himself. And they asked him, will you be able to restrain yourself? He's like, oh yeah, it's totally my idea. Are you sure you're going to take good care of it? Oh yeah, I wouldn't want this to all go to shit. No, I'm on it. Yeah. No. And see, this is one of the things that pranksters teach us. They teach us not to elect people who we can't trust in office. And I'm just going to leave that statement alone.
The annoying orange.
They teach us not to put ourselves into a point where we can disappoint others after building up their faith in us. They teach us also that sometimes tricks can serve a purpose. Anansi is from more or less West Africa, okay? We're going to go all the way around the world to the, I believe we call them North Pacific tribes in the standard American lingo. And many of them qualify under the name of Tlingit. And yes, I can spell that because it's hard, T-L-I-N-G-I-T. The Tlingit follow raven. And yes, raven is caw-caw, a bird. But one thing to know is that raven, when he first came into being, he was stunning. He was so beautiful. His plumage was rainbow colored. His voice was so exciting. He could do no wrong and was so pretty, and everyone paid attention to him. And girl, he knew it. And so he was always on stage. He was always admired. He was always wonderful. But see, he finds out that everybody's really tired of the world being dark all the time. And it wouldn't be dark all the time, except Grandfather Sky is being a miser. There's this beautiful golden ball that's very, very bright. that we could take out and hang up in the sky to keep it bright at least half the time, right? But he keeps it in this box at his house so it doesn't light up the whole world. And when Raven finds out about this, he's like, give me a sec, I'll fix this. So he hides himself, and this leaves a little bit to the imagination, so bear with me. He hides himself as a seed, little seed, invisible seed, in the water of the creek, where Grandfather Sky's daughter likes to go wash her clothes and gather water and take care of her chores and stuff. And as the seed, very carefully timed, starts floating down the water, she scoops it up and drinks it. And now that Raven, who is hiding as a seed, is in her body, he now lands in her uterus and becomes a baby.
Because
Okay.
of course he does.
Because of course he does. That's how it works. I know that's what happens with me all the time. And Shannon, you've been there. It happens like all the time. No.
The infamous food baby.
I managed to have 3 beautiful surprise pregnancies, so this is really hilarious knowing the backstory. Anyway, I love my babies, but they were all surprises. Even my foster kids were like surprises. Hello, I need things. And I'm like, oh, hi, I guess I have them. Okay, sure, let's do that. Anyway, thank you. So supper's ready. I can't eat for another hour, obviously, unless they bring it to me, but that's cool. So now that Raven is in her belly swells up over time, and she ends up with a beautiful baby boy who is just the prettiest thing. Now, you guys remember Raven had beautiful plumage, right? So he is a beautiful boy. And he had this beautiful singing voice. And so does this little boy. And this little boy charms the pants off of Grandfather Sky and absolutely wins his heart over. So finally, he agrees to take out his prettiest, most valuable thing from the box to show to his beloved, dearly beloved grandson. And once the little boy, who is Raven, is holding this beautiful thing in his hands, he suddenly begins to transform and becomes a raven again, and grabs the ball in his mouth, flies out the window really fast, or quick, not quass, sorry, really quickly. Quass.
If it talks like a duck, then quacks like a duck.
Quass. My husband makes things, and they're pretty, and I love them. Anyway, I will eat in a minute. So, Raven puts it in his mouth and flies up into the sky. And as he flies up, it's hot, right? So it starts cooking his vocal cords and changing his fur colors. And this feathers colors. And there's some overlap between this and when he also brought fire to the people. So I might be mixing 2 stories a little, and I know this, but we're going to go ahead and mix them this time anyway. As he flies it higher and higher and higher into the sky, it's cooking him. So it gets to a point where he can't go any higher. And he deposits the sun in the sky and then flies away to recover. Now, first off, his beautiful rainbow plumage is now black. And only in the sunshine can you see the rainbows shining through a little bit. So that's why they ripple with the rainbows in their feathers. And you can just see them now and then. Secondly, his beautiful tonal voice turned into this, because that's what happens when you smoke. And apparently flying around with the sun in your mouth is very similar. So Raven ended up with a rough voice, and black plumage, and he walks around now, and he's no longer the hot shit thing that everybody worshipped the ground he walked on. Now everybody laughs at him because he is funny. He walks a little strange, he keeps his shoulders a little bit hunched, his plumage is extra black, his voice is extra rough, and he also brought light and daytime to the whole freaking world. I'll take it. That's okay. And Maui, another prankster god, did something very similar. And you guys have probably all seen Moana, so I'm not going to repeat all of it. I'm sure you can see how he's yet another prankster god. What's funny is a lot of the prankster gods I get along well with are the ones that do crack jokes. They do make you laugh. They aren't necessarily the ones seducing your sister and making a deal afterwards. But Alegba, he's got a couple saucy stories that involve the goddess of beauty and or her sister, the goddess of rivers and anger.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
It's not. I'm not even going to try and retell them because they all sound like a soap opera. Like, I'm just going to leave that alone. Just fill in the gaps in your own head.
Days of Our
Alegba,
Lives was never good.
actually, you'd be amazed. Some of these stories, enjoy whatever your brain pops up, honestly. But see, a lot of these stories that I'm going to tell you guys, it's not the stories that are the point. In my description, I said he's great in comedies. He entertains us in mythology. He makes work less endless. These are the people who crack jokes at our jobs. They are the prankster. That's the thing about these kinds of gods and goddesses. They don't politely stay on a cloud in the sky. They live among us. I was working with a student of mine, talking to him about looking into a prankster god. And I said how there was a version of the prankster god that he challenges authority more. He often is known for stealing things and for being very cunning and very intelligent. And he is often represented by the fox. And sometimes the fox takes on forms that are more feminine. So it would be she is represented by the fox. But nonetheless, the fox still symbolizes this feisty spirit, this I'm going to get what I want to. Yeah. And is really good at it. And when I tell him this, he's like, oh my God, literally my whole life I have had foxes walking out of the woods and looking at me. And I stopped him. I said, honey, you do know that happens to no one else ever, right? And he said, no, I didn't. I'm like, yeah, Fox as a spirit has been trying to introduce him or herself to you for a long time. Let's go ahead and start looking there for your prankster god first. Now, you guys are hearing this. Realistically, you all know the answer to this. Hear the question though. Why didn't he think the fox was a signal or a symbol from the divine?
Because he wasn't looking for it in that way, maybe?
Because it was
Or he
plain
wasn't
old.
considering it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was plain old real life. And if a fox drops everything to walk over and talk to you, how do you know they don't do that with anybody else?
Oh, yeah, that's a hard one, isn't it?
How do you find out that this is strange and unique? How do you learn that? You have to, like, I don't know, open up about really strange, unique occurrences that only happen in your life, you think, but you're not sure, and tell whom? I mean, he was in the Catholic community at the time. Who
Oh,
would
that's
you?
a hard one then. You just go to a stranger, I suppose, maybe, and just get weird with it.
Oh, that sounds more exciting than it might should. But realistically, if you have your friendly neighborhood priestess to ask, it gets easier. You can start asking questions like this. But to a certain
Oh, yeah,
extent,
true.
just assume these things are normal. Now, the prankster also brings us some lessons. And these are really, really important. Life is easier when you can laugh at it. Also, though, when you're stressed, when you have anxiety peaking, and I just said this in at least one class recently, but I'll risk repeating myself. When your
good.
anxiety is peaking, we all kind of hold our breaths. You know what I mean? And we hunch our shoulders and we sit really still. And we don't move a whole lot and we don't breathe a whole lot and we don't talk a whole lot except when we talk way, 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 way too much. Okay. And our brain gets flooded with cortisol, which makes us feel disgusting. What happens when we laugh? Anybody know?
Oh yeah, I do.
Your body moves first and foremost, and we get flooded with oxygen because we're laughing, which means we're breathing, secondly.
mhm.
Tell me more, though. What didn't I mention?
Your brain gets flooded with endorphins, which makes you feel happy, and that causes you to want to get up and move more because it's a happy feeling. Exercise does the same thing. What was it? Well, like you said, cracking jokes, or doing your favorite activity.
Yep.
What else happens to the body? It increases circulation, which is amazing for your skin, as well as your organs.
Yeah. And anxiety shuts all of that down and locks all of it up. So in a year when everything is hell and brimstone and if we can laugh, we might survive, ladies and gentlemen. We might survive. And Shannon says, I could laugh all day, but exercising all day sounds more like work than fun.
Right.
That's why you don't focus on it as exercising. You focus on it as, I'm going to go for a walk or an adventure, or I'm going to go shopping just for fun this time, not because I have to. Which
Yeah,
might-
but the husband gets the exercise then because he's carrying all the bags, right? No.
No, he actually gets into like arguments with me. He's like, let me carry something. I'm like, no, I've got it. It's fine. He's like, let me carry something. I'm like, no, really, it's okay. Stop it. This is my only exercise for the day. Go away.
I love you,
Like-
honey. Bap.
Let me be strong man. I want to. Anyway. And also, a lot of times what we are all sitting here trying to learn and trying to pay attention to, the things that the universe keeps reminding us of that we really need to take care of. And it's so important, and we know it. It doesn't sound fun. Shannon, you hate exercising, but would you dance for an hour with me if we had music playing and there were other folks there?
Ooh, yay.
I don't think I could last an hour, but I would dance over normal exercise, yeah.
See, and would, Sean, I want to play tag with you someday. I was going to ask, would you play tag with me sometime? But I bet you would, and it would be tremendous fun. What do you think?
Probably.
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 I'm sorry, getting tired.
Flashlight tag. Man, we should have a guild flashlight tag when we're out at Beltane this coming weekend. Oh,
Oh God, that'd be fun.
not Beltane and not this coming weekend. I said every part of that wrong. Hey guys, guess what? The guild is having a Samhain gathering. We are going to be in a huge valley so that social distancing actually works. We are going to have to ask with a very insistent straight face, but also much sadness in our hearts, that every travel group keep to their own group and bring like a picnic blanket that they can keep their whole family on as they move from area to area, or their own travel group with. If we all cuddle together the way that we normally would at a guild event and share drinks and hang out, there's a very good chance we might all pass around all kinds of things and not just COVID. So, as we are going through all of our different trials, traumas, and tribulations, be thinking that Samhain is coming up, and we have a setup where I hope, fingers crossed, we can do full social distancing and have a full weekend of events at the same time. We even have a main ritual.
What's the event anyway?
Huh?
What's Samhain anyway? I don't know what Samhain is. I've never heard of it.
Oh, Samhain is the cross-quarter day between fall equinox and winter solstice. It marks the end of the functional time of the year, and we are approaching that right now, actually. It lines up with Halloween, and all of the witches who love the spooky season are often loving both Halloween and Samhain because they very much do overlap
It's when the veil is thinnest.
between the living and the dead.
Okay.
And it is a warm, fuzzy time for cold, dark things. No,
I wonder. Well, 1 second.
go ahead.
So
Take this exchange.
I see a lot of numbers, I used to call it talking to the universe. I guess it's angels, apparently. I'm guessing since the veil is thinning, they can get through a lot better, can't they?
Often. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because somebody else, like somewhere else in the world, had mentioned they were seeing in a huge increase as well, and it's just like, oh, okay. So,
Well, when Shannon had said something about the veil is thinning, the reason I qualified between the living and the dead is because, okay, science lesson. We're going to put some science into everything.
yeah, I like
Because
science.
it's me, and that's what I do. The globe has a northern hemisphere and a southern hemisphere, and as it rotates throughout the year, one is closer to the sun than the other because it's on an axis and it's angled. So for this time of the year, if the sun's over this way, then this top half of the globe will be further from the sun and the bottom half will be closer. This matters because, like, I can explain to you that the calendar is basically reversed in the some southern hemisphere. Found my words. But instead, I want y'all to realize that as we are moving through the giant, vast space around the sun, when our planet is on this end, and we refer to the veil being thinner for us at Samhain, we're referring to the northern hemisphere, and we're talking about how for us it's the veil between the living and the dead. At the same time, the southern hemisphere is going through Beltane, where the veil is thinnest between the living and the fae, which are nature spirits. And I find it fascinating that it's at the same time. Because then when they're at the other end of the cycle, when we're at the other end of the cycle, now we're closer to the sun in the top hemisphere. And over here in the bottom hemisphere, they're experiencing winter. So we have more of an interaction with fae, and they have more of an interaction with the dead and the things that go bump in the night. I would love to investigate this correlation and how it changes, and if it's something to do with like where we're at in our rotational axis, and actually scientifically analyze how much the interactions change over the course of the year. That would be really cool for me. But in the meantime, let me
Oh God, yes.
that the northern hemisphere is going through its time when the veil is thinnest for us between the living and the dead. And so some of the things like the fae, nature's kind of wilting and going away right now. So you might not see some of those things as much. So when it comes to other beasties, it's a question of where they fall in the spectrum of things as to whether you'll sense them more right now or actually substantially less. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, it does.
Like, don't get me wrong, there's fae around. And you can still find them, but in Beltane, it's like you just open your eyes and you can pretty much see them out of the corner of your eyes everywhere you look. at Samhain, that's just simply not the case. I mean, maybe it's the case for somebody else, but not for me anyway.
Those little shadows you see off to the side of your vision real quick, and yeah, they kind of blip out of existence. I've seen a couple of those today.
And this time of year, I do still see them. They just tend to be less nature energy and more of like almost decay spirits. That's okay. They're not bad things. We've all seen the soot sprites from My Neighbor Totoro, right? Everybody? Anybody?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. They serve a purpose.
There's actually one hanging up at work on what was it? One of the assistant manager's doors, and it's really, really cute. I kind of want to, take it. No.
Oh, I love the soot sprites. But no, get your own. We need lots of soot sprites in this world. So everybody should get their own and hang it somewhere that other people can see because it's cool. But so I was going to go ahead and throw a plug out, though, just for anyone who happens to watch this video. Samhain, we are putting on an end-of-the-year cross-quarter day, as in Samhain, gathering at France Park. Shannon's high priestessing will be then. That's a girl. We get to officially elevate her to the role of high priestess, finally. A little while in the making. And then, just little. And then we tried to do it last Beltane and it didn't work. But we're also going to have a labyrinth where we're going to encourage people to go interact with the different embodiments of the divine. Shannon and I will both be channeling goddesses for your viewing and enjoyment. Oh, and Shannon, you know the path that wanders around the valley where we always camp? Brittany suggested using that as the labyrinth.
Cool. I was wondering what we were actually gonna do for the labyrinth portion. Like, yeah.
And you, madam, get to sit in front of that cave.
Awesome.
There is no question. I don't care where you put your butt, but you get to be in front of the cave.
I like the cave. Yeah.
I knew you would. And she's going to be embodying Hel, the goddess, not the place, the goddess of the dead, who emerges from her cave of the underworld quite frequently in mythology. Am I correct? More or less, sometimes. I would love to see you in front of the cave, embodying Hel. Although it might be very, very cold, so we might be building a whole lot of fires because we need little bitty fire in front of all of goddesses, so we do not freeze our goddesses. But if
Really?
fresh frozen goddesses. Yes, yes.
Hel's used to the cold.
The hell you say?
It's how to keep them young.
She's used to it. I'm
I'm a
not.
Yeah, let's not turn.
I like the cold.
So if anybody would like to join us for our weekend excursion, we are trying to charge not a dime more than we need to cover our costs. It is a very low cost event overall. It is not free. But we also need to not actually fill up the entire valley if we can help it, so we can keep everybody safe. So if you would like to come, all food will be provided. We will take donations in lieu of payments. Tickets are $20 for Saturday, $30 for the weekend, and it's going to be a heck of a good time. We are very excited about this, and we just got to do a preliminary walkthrough on the site. It's going to be cool. Shannon, the whole valley is dry for one. Yes,
I
Jacob?
gotta check my next week's schedule, and I would need a ride out there.
Right. Well, you can see if you can carpool with somebody and help cover their gas. I know a few people from Lafayette might appreciate that. We can
That'd be cool.
throw that combo together on the, as in conversation, together on the event page. I just wanted to invite you all. Oddly enough, the Prankster is not explicitly invited as of right now, although we will be welcoming everybody with music and song. And we will be drinking in the evenings every night. And so you bet your fanny we're going to end up invoking him. We just aren't specifically invoking him for ritual purposes right now, or at least not last I checked. Or her. Actually, let's go ahead and change change lanes for a second. Guess who else can qualify as a prankster? Eris.
Who's that?
Hail Eris, goddess of chaos and confusion. She of the
Oh yeah, okay, that makes
golden.
sense.
She is a brilliantly capable, wonderfully intelligent Greek goddess who is terribly underestimated and undervalued by most of the people.
And does not like to feel ignored.
Or underestimated or undervalued. If you want to work with Eris, you must be very respectful and kind. I mean, you don't must be. It's entirely allowed for you to not be respectful and kind. But she might, shall we say, remind you.
And expect lots of stares.
To fall down, not people just staring at you.
Yeah, stares to fall down.
Because it's very,
Ow.
she is, forgive me for putting it correctly, Eris, please be kind with me. I'm trying to explain you in very flattering and also accurate terms. She's the kind of woman who doesn't want to ask for what she wants. Why can't you just know? So she's sometimes a little bit hard to work with because of this. It's much easier if she would just look at each of us and say, hey, so what I want in order to be happy is, but for the most part, she doesn't. And I don't know anyone who's mad at her for it per se, but sometimes she doesn't make it easy.
I know one lady who is a priestess of hers, and
How's that work?
I'll venture to say that she's fallen down a lot of stairs and gone through a lot of hard times, but she's better. She's learned a lot of lessons, and she's better for it now, even though it was really rough.
I believe that wholeheartedly, and honestly, that's something to realize about the prankster gods. And forgive me, I'm just starving. Beautiful plate of delicious food. I had to eat something. Working with the
I'll be right back.
pranksters. No worries. Working with the pranksters is often incredibly valuable. All of them. Because there are a few deities who truly seem to understand human nature as much as the prankster does. When we're talking about Alegba, the one that I mentioned who would flirt with the goddess of beauty while also hanging out with the goddess of rivers and anger, who was her sister. Right. Alegba, and that's Oya, and yep. And one of my favorite goddesses whose name I'm freaking blanking on. I'll think of it and I'm going to feel like an idiot for it. My daughter, I love you, Mommy. I'll talk to you soon. My mom popped by. She was hanging out with my hubby. Sorry. So the thing about these forms of divinity, Alegba might be a prankster. He might be. But because of his willingness to fool other people and his ability to change the way he looks and the way he interacts with others, Legba is also intriguingly the one god that interacts with humanity and carries all of our messages to the divine. He is also in charge of transporting our souls to the land of the dead. He is also involved, and this is all depending on which specific sect of the various Santeria, hoodoo, voodoo, Vodun traditions you're looking at, which is where Legba comes from. But depending on how you're looking at it, he ends up having all of these different roles of communication and transportation of souls and of things. He can go from God to goddess. Pardon me. From God to goddess to the quote real world more easily than anybody else can. because he's a Legba. That's his job. And he can sneak his way in. Like, you want to go to a show, he might not have tickets, but he can get you backstage passes, you know? Now, it doesn't mean that you won't get caught because they're fake, but everybody else thought they were real, you know? He represents aspects of human nature that are so important for us to know. Like, okay, if I wanted to, and if I'm going to talk about him, I probably should actually. If I want to invoke Legba, it helps to have a cigar or a high-quality cigarette. He will accept any, but the higher quality, the better. And he love him some rum. And if you want to sit and talk with him, you do the rum. Because it's his jam, yo. It's a perfect chemical creation of water that preserves the water so it stays liquid and it doesn't get nasty and it doesn't evaporate unless you, well, leave it open. And it also changes your senses. He likes himself the drink. We drink with him with respect. We visit with him with respect. Because just because they're funny doesn't mean that we shouldn't treat them well. And we set them aside their drink off to one side. If we drink with them, we do it respectfully. And considering that alcohol can actually augment our perception of the other realms, sometimes it helps. Facts. But please notice, did I like toss the whole bottle back? No, it's not necessary. Not necessary. Most of the time, not relevant. And that's with someone who's part of a pantheon. Now I'm talking to you guys about the lessons the prankster brings. Something to realize also is that all of these pranksters are part of a club. Each of them are part of a club. So if Loki were to show up in the modern world, could you imagine him showing up without the rest of his pantheon? No, not necessarily. I mean, maybe, kind of. But right? But he's related to Odin. He's related to all of the different people in his pantheon. They have backstories, they have interactions, they have love stories, they have divorces sometimes.
And he knows how to get to them more than others.
So he wouldn't want to leave them behind. If he was going to come and hang out with us, he'd want to come and hang out with us with them, right? Even in the love-hate relationships, there's still some love. When dealing with Legba, many people consider it inappropriate to have any dealings with Legba without actually have interactions with the whole rest of his pantheon. The fact that I personally salute Legba, I apologize to anyone that might offend. But also, I find it appropriate to be respectful to the gods that impress you. You know, even if it's just a passing something, you still leave an offering in their plate. You still light a candle or a stick of incense. Now, I could remember where my book God went, which I can't. I'll show you what I'm talking about and then I'll move on. This is the book Goddess, Myths of the Female Divine. And there is another version of this that is God, Myths of the, I know you're shocked to hear this, Myths of the Male Divine. If you get these, they have sections in them and they talk through the different aspects of divinity based on, and I love this, the aspect of the divinity. So we have, I don't know if y'all can read it. It says the birth of the archetype, Earth Goddess, the flowering of the archetype, Great Mother. So Earth Goddess, Great Mother, then the male and the archetype, we discover the fertility goddess next. And you're catching this. This is a linear train of thought, right? The other book that I misplaced somewhere, I'm going to find it in like 20 minutes and be really embarrassed. Like 20 minutes after I'm done with the broadcast, sorry. Myth of the Male Divine has an entire section on the prankster. And some of it is talking about the switcheroo that sometimes played. I am going to lead you to the land of milk and honey, said Jehovah. And then they spent how long wandering in the desert?
40 years.
It sounds a little bit like a bait and switch to me, but only a little bit. I don't know. He sent manna from heaven, and supposedly it was yummy. Although if you asked me to lick the desert, I don't know if I'd be willing to do it.
If there's milk and honey at the end of the 40 years, you know, it's not a false promise.
And in the meantime, you have edible dew that you can harvest and eat in the mornings. It's good times. Maybe that's what they meant by milk and honey. What I want to know is who discovered the manna was edible? Like, who volunteered for that one? Did it smell yummy? Like, what? Anyway. So if I remember right, I'm not the first one at all to mention this as a potential aspect of the prankster interacting with people, but normally he's more blunt. Normally he is pulling actual tricks. And like Loki, and Shannon, if you wouldn't mind sharing one of the stories of Loki, normally his tales are a little bit nastier. His pranks are rough. Like if anybody here ever watches the Orvilles when they're trying, the Orville, singular, sorry, when they're trying to teach the robot in the, pardon me, android, in the cast, to be able to understand humor, they get into a prank battle.
Now, the prominent Loki story that has come up this year has been about Odin's son, Balder, where Loki ends up tricking him into dying in a non-glorious way. It's like poison or something.
Oh, right. He just wastes away and is miserable because of it, yeah.
And so Loki, because Loki did this and Balder died a non-glorious, you know, death, Balder went to Hell's realm. And everyone was so upset. They wanted Balder back. They were beside themselves. So they made a journey to Hell's realm to try to get Balder back.
Mm-hmm.
Hell was like, no. Because he hadn't gone through the stuff that all the other dead people had to go through too.
Mm-hmm.
And so she wasn't going to let him go. And after lots and lots of pestering, she finally said, all right, I'll give him back on one condition. Everyone has to agree. There's basically a giant vote and everybody has to say yes. If one person says no, he stays. So they take, oh man. So he, so they take a giant vote and Loki transforms himself into someone else and votes no. And so Balder was not returned.
And see, that's the kind of stuff that I was actually about to refer to, because on the Orville, they tried to teach the android how to understand humor. And they took his metal head and managed to put Mr. Potato Head features onto his head, and he didn't notice. It was great. So his response, they turned to him in his confusion. They said, okay, now you have to do one better. You have to do one better. He's like, okay, I don't fully understand, but I will do my best. And the guy in the show wakes up a day or so later and goes to get out of bed and collapses because his leg is missing. Just gone.
Mm-hmm.
Gone. And luckily, this is all Star Trek age kind of stuff, so they can just rebuild his leg. But haha, he took his leg. Isn't that funny, you know? And realistically, it was after the fact. It wasn't at the time. And that's the thing I always struggle
I
with,
bet not.
right? That's the thing I always struggle with when it comes to stories about Loki. It seems like he's always taking somebody's leg as his answer to the practical joke. Like, it's not like he says, "Oh, I'm gonna send Balder into the underworld, but it's okay, I'll let him come back." No, he's like, "I'm gonna send him to the underworld and he will stay there forever because I'm gonna make sure." Always. It's just a shtick. It's
Oh,
like he's
God.
not kind. I like my pranksters to be kind. Or at least caring.
So basically, Loki it has that line in the ground, and he's totally willing to hurl himself over top of it, just to make a point, right?
Uh-huh. That's incredibly well
Yeah.
put, yeah. He would throw himself to his own demise if it meant making a point. And isn't there a story where he does? Or something very similar?
Maybe, but I'm not familiar with all of the stories about Loki so far.
Nobody is.
I know none of them, so.
Keep in mind, most of the active stories about Loki were told over the course of the last, I'm doing the math, I think 2,600 years. Even if people were recording every story that came up over the entire period of time, we wouldn't be able to read half the languages now. So it's
True.
really impossible to know what all of the stories ever were. And see, that's something about the prankster that's actually very important to realize. Over the course of hundreds of years of human history, and I'm trying to be discreet, but I'm also trying to rearrange. Pardon me. I have a skirt that's like 5,000 feet of fabric. It's compact. So long. Poof. I have studied the lessons of the Great Mother, and she is often relevant to anyone with a womb. But what if you don't want to have babies? What if you're a guy and you just don't have a womb? What if you have a womb and you hate it? Like, all of these are real concerns. So she's not necessarily universal, even though she's almost always accurate. But then even ideas about how motherhood is supposed to be looked at have changed over the centuries. And then furthermore, we have stories about Father Time and what he's supposed to do and what he's not, not supposed to do. But the value system of how time is supposed to pass in a good way in communities has changed over time. So some of the viewpoints of Father Time have shifted. Sometimes he was the Grim Reaper. There we go, the Grim Reaper. My brain wasn't kicking out the whole term, sorry. But sometimes he was the preserver who would keep everything safe forever. And you guys are hearing this. These are opposites, right? These are not the same. These are very opposite. And so again, these are not universal. When it comes to the prankster, he has a universal message always. And it is always clear. It is so funny that among all of the truths that the divine have shared with us over the centuries, it is the lies that are the most universally understandable.
And the pranksters are especially adaptable compared to most of the other deities.
They really are. They can work in almost any circumstance, anywhere, anytime, and they can be applicable to you and me and our children, because frankly, humor works. Like, don't get me wrong, the goddesses of beauty will always be goddesses of beauty. They always gonna be fabulous. But frankly, what if you're not that into that? I've heard gay men comment on goddesses of beauty and say, I'd rather be her than worship her personally. Me too. It's cool. I get that. but also she's stunning, and I would stare at her for a week. So when we are talking about all of the different aspects of the divine, what's funny to me is that happiness is rarely associated with beauty or money or being the highest guy on the totem pole, or I mean, happiness is important. It is amazing. It is exciting, and it doesn't feature in. I'm getting very weird messages all at once on my phone for no apparent reason. For all of the different lessons and guidelines that all of the different divine pantheons and practices can teach us, the one thing that I want to be clear on here is that very few of them have to do with happiness outside of the prankster. The prankster can take away our happiness by tricking us out of the things that we want and that we need, the things that we've worked towards, the things that we value. The prankster can also take us on a horribly terrible day and convince us in our soul that everything's going to be okay. And he can do that by telling you the world's going to end. That's the funniest part. Oh, we're all going to die. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah, we're all going to die.
Now those other things can help you to be happy, but too much of those things can also make you unhappy as well.
Right. And suddenly, what, sweetie?
I like what you said. He can make us laugh by telling us it's the end of the world, because that alleviates the stress. There is no more pressure there anymore. It's like, fuck it, dude. Let's go have a beer.
Yeah.
If we're gonna go out, we're gonna go out, doing the thing.
Right. And so when we are stuck and hopeless and cannot take a breath, we're so stressed. Turn on your favorite prankster. Turn on your favorite joke. Have a great time. Get a hold of your friends and have a game with them. Do something that's going to alleviate your stress. And remember for a second that for all that we treat it like we cannot do this in church, we cannot do this in a respectable environment, we cannot, and there's so many can'ts built into this modern world, feel free to fill in all you want. But if we can allow ourselves to laugh and joke and be silly and play, and yes, sometimes prank each other, sometimes trick each other to get what everybody wants in the long run, that's the only thing anybody can really want from life, isn't it? Like, close the deal on what people actually like. Now, don't get me wrong. There's lessons to be had. In the Vodun pantheon, Obatala, the sky god, has all of these important messages that people are supposed to listen to. He's very moral, but he's also very distant. His head does not turn for other people. He is very contemplative. And he gives lots of guidelines on how to be a good person. He does. And then there's other aspects of the pantheon. I'm not remembering his name. There's a god of technology and culture and hermitage, being a hermit. And I think I got that correct. I apologize again if I'm missing that even by a little. And when I think of his name, I will laugh because my cat used to be named after him and I'm just feeling stupid. But this god he represented introspection and the learning of things and technology and whatnot, There's a lot of good things to be had with him. And sometimes the prankster, he doesn't follow like the work that has to go into it if you want to be a hunter. like this god whose name I'm blanking on. Wonderful God, who I really respect. If you are looking at this God, he's going to teach you how to put in all of the hard work. If you look at Obatala, he's going to teach you all of the morals that are involved. You look at Legba, he might skip some of that until he gets reminded. I put together a story about a Legba a while back to kind of explain some of the gist of him, because he's magical. Like, some of the times he tricks himself into his own tricks. So one night he's out drinking at a bar and he's drunk, but he's not done drinking. So he asks this guy, hey, if you get all of my drinks for the rest of the night, I'm going to go find some gold in the mountains over there. They're in a cave over there somewhere, I'm sure. I'm going to go find some gold over there and I'll split it with you if you'll buy my drinks for the rest of the night. But he knows that the gold's going to be like way more than the drinks costs, right? So he can enjoy his drinks, a couple for maybe drinks for the rest of the night. The next morning he wakes up, because of course he wakes up, he passed out. And he's like, hey, so I'll go get you some gold. Or no, he's like, hey, good morning, doesn't remember any of this. And the guy comes over and says, hey, you gonna get me my gold? And he's like, gold? What? Yeah, you were drinking last night. You said you were gonna go get some gold out of that there cave. Oh, did I? Okay. So he wanders over to the hills, back behind the far side of the woods, back behind the bar, and he manages to find a cave, and he wanders into the cave looking around, and he sees some gold. So he goes to maybe get it, and then he realizes he's actually seeing the eyes of a bear who is staring at him, and he goes, ah, and goes to run away. The bear says, no, 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 no. What are you doing in my cave? I wanted some gold, and I don't see any. He's like, I don't know if I can help you. And he's like, no, I do see some. There's somebody left some stuff in the back of your cave. You're not using it. Can I have it? And the bear's like, not unless you help me get some of my gold that I need. And he's like, ugh. Keep in mind, he was trying to save himself from having to do work. So this is exhausting, that he's having to do so much work to save himself from work so he could drink last night. He's not even getting anything out of this in the future. Ugh. So the bear, in order for a Legba to be able to access this pile of gold that's basically some guy's armor and dash of possessions he'd left in the back of the cave, he says, okay, well, I'll follow you out. And the bear says, all right, I'm going to lead you to the gold. It's over here. It's over here. And so they walk and they walk and they walk and they get to a tree. And the bear says, okay, it's up there. And so Legba climbs the tree. And he's like, okay, where's the gold? And he's like, well, see that big muddy looking ball up there? If you'll knock that down, I can get the gold out. So he knocks it down for the bear and ends up being chased by bees because, of course, it's a beehive, while the bear eats all of the honey. And then the bear offers him his share of the gold, which is the honey. He's like, no, I just want the gold from the cave, right? So they go back to the cave, and Legba's like, ow, 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 ow. But he gets the pile of gold from the back of the cave, and he carries it back to the bar triumphantly, and he spreads it out on the table, and it turns out most of it is dirty armor that just looks gold. And a little bit is actually gold coinage. The guy who bought him all of his drinks said, that's nowhere near my share that you promised me. Takes what he can of the gold and leaves. So Legba's left with some junk metal, which he then passes off as some great treasure so he can drink for the rest of the night again.
Oh my God.
And a lot of the different prankster tales, they end up kind of falling into their own stories. They end up putting in work because they're trying to avoid work. They end up gathering materials when they're trying to do it with nothing, you know? They end up being able to make the best of a bad situation when they created the bad situation in the first place. And more importantly, even though they're trying to sidestep all of the lessons that Obatala might try to impress on them, and that I'm going to scream if I can't figure out what the heck this guy's name is.
Google's
Seriously,
fun.
I named this and everything. Can anybody, my computer's not wanting to wake up. Can anybody do a search for voodoo god hermit technology and just tell me the name that pops up? Anybody? Please. Like, my computer won't do anything. It's sitting right here and it's being stupid.
I can't spell. I'm sorry, I can't.
If I can get my computer to wake up, I'll find it lickety split and see if I can do this. I might be able to. Okay, I go here. I go there. I hit this.
I see Hercules.
Wrong
Or-
pantheon.
Well, the voodoo Hercules. Ogun.
Ogun!
Ogun.
Bless you, woman. Yes, it's Ogun. Ah, Ogun is his name, and I love him, and he's so good, and I just couldn't even. I'm so sorry. There was no coming up with those words. Ogun is a wonderful, interesting god to interact with, and I was just blanking. So for all of these gods that represent these lessons that we're supposed to learn, these trades that we can master, these skills that we can develop, it's often the prankster who demonstrates the real need for it. It's often the prankster who shows us, no, really, you want to learn this. Like, and their lessons are sometimes better. Who learned a ton about life from reading Calvin and Hobbes? For those who know what the heck Calvin and Hobbes is. Show of hands, anyone?
I know it, but I didn't really read it much.
Oh no, it's so good. Okay, who learned a ton about life from watching cartoons?
Yeah,
Right?
me right here. Yeah.
Right. Cartoons speak to our souls. They help guide us if, they do. If they do. Because sometimes, realistically, nothing will. Now let's go ahead, and before we go, I'm going to say one disappointing fact, and then we're going to go back to an upbeat note because it's 9:55 and I should wrap up relatively soon, even if I started a few minutes late. And again, apologies.
The sign was funny.
Thank you. I had to find some way to at least make sure my face would show up on camera and I could coordinate with people in the kitchen and get some caffeine in me. Like, it was important. I want to remind you all that the prankster will sometimes help us to learn even when we don't want to. He will sometimes.
Oh,
Mhm.
I got a thing. Anybody ever heard of Bo Burnham? Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a big one of that too. A lot of his start stuff was really funny, but then he gets really deep with it in his later stuff on stage, and he makes you deal with it, and it's actually awe-inspiring, really. Go on, sorry.
No, thank you for mentioning him. That's actually someone I'm intrigued to look up now because I really haven't. I know who he is, but in this really vague, everybody talked about him, and I'm not sure much about him kind of way. So I'll check him out.
He's absolutely brilliant. But yeah.
So Bo is an example of trying to force people into learning, but frankly, sometimes people won't. Sometimes people won't.
Hmm.
And as parents, we get to deal with a lot of that. A lot of people have laughed about how, as a parent, I often use the Pied Piper method of, come on, everybody, it'll be fun to clean our room. Everyone will get candy when you're done if you do. Come on, let's go adventure. Whee! You know? And sometimes the prankster is the Pied Piper, for better and for worse. And sometimes people still don't care. He's not going to solve all problems. But when all else feels lost, making somebody laugh and want to do what you're asking, whether they're a small child or a grown-ass adult, making them want to do what you're asking might actually work when nothing else has. You cannot ever win them all. But you can get a lot closer if you follow some of the lessons of the prankster and let them guide you, especially in this strange world of difficulty and confusion. I have to finish up now because it's about that time, and I have to get to actually finishing my dinner and not just stealing a bite here or there. I am offering study sessions and counseling and therapy. I charge a very low rate of just $25 an hour. I know I have price checked. It is abysmally low. I don't think people should have to pay for these services on principle, so I charge less than I know I should. If anybody is interested, please contact me. It's very easy to get signed up with me. It is very easy to start work with me. At some point, I might need a paper trail, but right now it is a handshake agreement and a trade of services. I also wanted to let you know that the next free class that we are going to be teaching, instead of discussing the prankster, we are going to talk about, oh, I don't think my laptop's going to wake up. Next week, we are talking about kind of making life what you want it to be in your relationships and your various settings, as in take somebody for the good that they represent to you. Take a situation for what it can, how it can functionally benefit you. Have fun with your life within the terms under which it's fun. And don't try to fit the rest of it in. If the rest of it is like scaly, skin-eating horribleness, you know, just invite in the parts you want. So that's how we're going to discuss how to happy next week. And I hope I will get to see you all there. Does anybody from the class today have any comments, questions, input, thoughts?
Okay, so Aries was the one with the falling down the stairs things, right?
Oh, rephrase your question in different words and I will answer it.
Eris.
Eris.
Okay. So she's really into the fall gags?
No, dealing with her is a lot like falling downstairs.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about in a literal sense. A gravity prank, you know? Like falling
No.
downstairs.
No, meaning like things get hard, like, and changes are abrupt, and sometimes just really discombobulating.
Mhm.
But in most cases, at least with my friend who deals with her regularly, it was necessary changes that needed to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel great going through those and going downstairs.
I bet not. The brain says, okay, this isn't normal. I have to process for a little bit, and it's very difficult to do so. Trust me. I've been there. Anyway, well, thank you.
Yeah, and we often use the phrase of learning by falling downstairs in our group because it feels like it. You miss one step And the universe is very clear that you should not have missed that one step. So now you get to learn never to miss it again. And all of a sudden there's all of the fun that goes along with it. And everything you may have been holding in your arms is now falling down the stairs with you. Woo!
Oh yeah, it's on repeat until you learn it, and then you get to move on.
Oh yeah, then you get to move on. It's so exciting and painful and exhausting, and somehow we survive. So any other questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
Or just to Prankster God in general. Sometimes you might not relate to one that's not already thought of. Within the order, we have an exercise called Create Your Own God,
Yeah.
to where basically if, you have this deity that, or this aspect you're trying to connect to, but nothing's really calling to you, make your own God.
Right.
And basically it's the whole concept of every God before has been created by someone just like you.
I love that. It's where the spaghetti monster came from. And really, we should mention him because in many ways he's a prank who turned into a god. So he's the ultimate prankster god. And the spaghetti monster was invented as a concept to train us that we can possess our corner of the world in any way we choose to. So if that means creating something that is so absurd as a spaghetti monster, that's fine. He can help guide us to think outside the box and to step into new things. And chaos magic, like, obviously this all makes sense when you find the phrase chaos magic hidden anywhere near it, but he's cool. And this is Pepper, and she loves you.
Kitty!
I love your Discordians.
I mean, we're going to talk about Eris, so we might as well talk about this big god, right? I love him. The flying spaghetti monster, I think, was what he was called, right? Did I get that
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, the Pastafarians.
I love pastafarians. They make me so happy. They're like, life is supposed to be good, so let it be. Stop getting in your own way. Yes. Thank you. And actually, Brianna, did you have any input, darling? You didn't really quite get a chance at the end. Did you have anything you wanted to throw in?
Not really, no.
Okay. Well, Pepper's going to rub her body on you and her face. Lots of it. Okay. Let me actually use my camera again. So let me leave off on that beautiful note. What many of the pranksters around the world have ultimately taught us is that cat butt is apparently a beautiful thing. No,
But
cat butt? But no, what many of the
Oh my
pranksters
god.
around the world have taught us, stop making out with the phone, is that life can be what we make of it. So why don't we make it somewhere we actually want to live? See, now you can't stop looking at the cat butt, can you? So
No. You need to get it bejeweled. I mean,
games like that are exactly the kind of things that you should use to help make your life more happy. Are you looking at a cat butt because I said so, because I drew your attention to it? Okay, so now if you want something awesome in your world, draw attention to the awesome in your world and take everybody in the room with you. They will thank you for being funny. They will laugh with you, and their stress, as we mentioned earlier, will melt away some because they're finally more relaxed. If there is really no such thing as restrictions to what you can create in this world, then why not make the world that you actually want to live in? You know what I mean? So, I love you all. Thank you for joining me for this fine and fun evening of conversation and visiting. I will be sharing this free video online for this week, and I hope to see you all again next week and maybe more, because I love the conversation so much. Thank you. Apparently it's my cat's turn. Bye, guys. I sign off.
Bye.
Oh, you are not making this easy. No, you are not. Peps, I love you.